In studying accounting, it is very important to understand just what a modern accountant in a professional accounting practice does, as it is where many students will end up. In considering the question, what is the composition of accounting work in a professional accounting practice in Christchurch 2015, I started to consider what the public perception of accountant by a non-accountant member of the public is. In this discussion, I will first start by exploring how the public views accountants, then use these findings to contrast with what I discovered about the composition of accounting work through conducting research on how accountants in several roles really operate. I expect that this contrasting will allow me to better understand how accountants operate in 2015 and how public perception of accountants has implications on how accountants really operate in society. I will start by first discussing my findings on what the public perception of accounting work is. In a study conducted by Australasian Accounting Business and Finance Journal on stereotypes and perceptions of accountants, two major stereotypes were identified. The first being the traditional bean counter. Positive aspects of this were discussed to be that they were honest and trustworthy, careful with money, painstaking, reliable, polite and well spoken. However, on the negative side, they were seen as being dull, boring, extremely fixated on money, pedantic and shabby. Since the late 1960s, the professional accounting bodies and the Big Four accounting firms have attempted to deter the traditional accountant stereotype as to recruit the best and brightest of the students and to overcome the shortage of accounting graduates wishing to enter the accounting field. The second discussed stereotype has been referred to as the business professional. This stereotype has been used by accounting profession to counteract the negative aspects of the traditional accountant. In regards to the business professional, has the characteristics of the executive, the manager, or even the entrepreneur, a thrusting, proactive, and more creative being. The study concluded that of those surveyed, it was evident that the majority still held the idea of the bean counter and perceived accountants as boring, definite, and precise. These results suggested that the accounting professional body's efforts to change the image of accounting in the eyes of students towards being a business professional stereotype in the post-Enron period have not been particularly successful so far. I will now discuss my findings from my research on what the composition of accountant work is in modern Christchurch firms. To do this, I've decided to split my research between two major service lines which accountants operate in within Christchurch in 2015, these being auditing and private business accountants. Auditors are accountants whose job is to carefully check the accuracy of a business's records. In Grant Thornton's An Instinct for Growth publication, a graduate auditor's position is described as, from the outset, you'll spend most of your time on site with clients as part of an audit team to get a real insight into how a business works. Working across a variety of sectors, you'll have exposure to every component of an audit, giving you knowledge to build your toolkit and foundation for the future. From this, we can understand that audit work comprises of a lot of face-to-face correspondence with the client in an audit process, getting a lot of contact with business owners and meeting like-minded people. This work is commonly done on the site of the client, meaning in your work as an accountant, you will commonly be in many different places. It is not uncommon for auditors to travel to other cities and perform audits, or even go overseas to gain insight through secondments, such as with the case of Chris Kinnear, Group Financial Controller with Kathmandu, who was involved in the Cadbury takeover in the UK by Kraft Foods. There is mention in the quote of working as a part of an audit team. This is another factor of working as a modern accountant, which is group work. It is very common for accountants to work in groups to allow each other to learn from each other's personal individual skills. This is a great learning tool for newer or graduate accountants as it lets them develop their professional skills and qualities. It is the job of auditors to ensure the accuracy of business records and financial statements. To do this, auditors must go through the audit process, which consists of first planning the audit, then gathering evidence, and later issuing the report. Planning an audit consists of establishing an overall audit strategy to set the scope, timing, and direction of the audit, and that guides the development of the audit plan. This is a quote from ISANZ 300, paragraph 7. Involved in this is the steps to determining risk to the company. These risks could include threats to integrity, such as firms option shopping to fit their needs for questionable accounting in their books. Gathering evidence is a twofold process. One, to study, test and evaluate internal controls to see if they can be relied upon. And two, perform and evaluate substantive testing. Internal controls provide information to an auditor on who, what, how and where an operation has occurred. With this information being reliable, auditors have less work needed to do. But to ensure this, the auditor must test the assertions of the controls to ensure they operate effectively through an accounting period. Substantive tests are tests done to validate the assertions of financial statement items directly, such as their existence, completeness and control. Examples of these checks tend to include trend analysis with historical data, budgets and industry standards, physical inspection, and recalculating balance amounts called footing. The issue of an audit report is a statement on the auditor's position of the financial statements of the firm being audited being true and fair. If this is the case, then an unmodified report is issued. Users of the financial information gain more confidence from their statements once they have been audited, as they know they can be relied upon. As you can see, it is of paramount importance that the auditor acts with confidence, integrity and strong ethics to ensure that their work is up to standard to maintain their professional reputation. This relates to the positive characteristics of the business professional stereotype, but also has distinct needs to openness and honesty to ensure professional integrity. Private business accountants are those which work with private businesses to help with the understanding and how to deal with key business issues. They offer the perspective of a third party with specialist business, consulting, deals, tax and accounting expertise and industry knowledge. Private business accountants work with a number of different firms ranging in size and scope. This means that the work which is being undertaken is ever changing and calls for a dynamic team culture. To quote Lucy Cockcroft of Grant Thornton, privately held business Auckland, "On a day-to-day basis I prepare financial statements for a range of companies, trusts, partnerships and individuals. No 2 days are ever the same and is not always limited to this." She goes on to say that there is great opportunities to work on site with clients and in the office. There is a friendly, vibrant work environment with everyone being approachable and willing to help, including partners of the firm. It is the job of a private business accountant to negate the complexities of doing business within New Zealand and around the world. To do this, the accountant must not only crunch numbers, but must put themselves at the forefront of business issues and regularly deliver valuable thought leadership to privately held business clients. As private business accountants, you get hands-on with preparation of financial accounts, end-of-year financial statements, GST returns, and fringe benefit returns. In doing this, there is face-to-face client discussion, either in the office or on your client's site. More challenging client assignments can include budgeting, cash flow forecasting, management accounts, and valuations, which require a deep understanding of the client and the business environment which the client operates in. An element of private business accountant is keeping up with the ever-changing scape of accounting opportunities. In discussion with classmates while engaging in the deep learning process, the topic of cloud-based accounting, such as Xero, came up. This is an example of adapting to the changing business environments and helping local Kiwi businesses strive and make things as easy as possible for them to operate. This shows a change in the role of an accountant from a traditional one to being one of true business advice and mentoring. As you can see, there is a large variance between what the public perceives accountants do and what accountants really do. The old social stigma of bean counter is obviously still persistent today, and this is not at all the case. Accountants are required to be outgoing, social and helpful in order to appropriately liaise with clients and gain valuable knowledge from fellow accountants. Through the deep learning process, it became apparent when talking to fellow student Zane Shasky that it is because of the evolution of the accounting role through changes in standards and what is required of accountants that has caused this disparity between what is commonly perceived and what accountants actually do. Changes such as those in auditing, changing from historically being a role, advising clients, changing to adding value to their books, and then recently after the financial crashes, changing back to being a more advisory role and more for the public good, has meant that unless members of the public are interested in the area, the changes will not be relevant to them and they will not change their perception. There is further issue that comes about from public perception of accountants under the modern accountant. This can carry its own social stigma as being dishonest and show lack of responsibility. This is caused by the numerous financial downfalls, notably Enron and the fall of Arthur Andersen. Having this perception has negative connotations and has meant that accountants may not be trusted. This puts forward the idea that accountants need to be transparent in their operations to instill business confidence and uphold the profession as a whole. On further reflection of my learning about accounting firms and accounting departments, I found it rather hard to find what I want to talk about at first, as accounting is such a broad profession. This difficulty prompted me to think about how the public perceives accountants and their work, which I found to be a great learning tool to contrast with what really happens. Breaking up the role of an accountant into two key areas enabled me to better explore each of them and made me more interested to learn more about the other areas and broaden my horizons for information about future opportunities. My learning through this assessment allowed me to better understand what will be expected of me as an accountant as a worker and an accountant as a public figure, which gave me a better insight into how to deal with both situations. On further reflection of my learning about market research, I found it rather easier to find the information I was looking for once I had decided the direction I wanted to head in for the assignment. Hearing from the accountants who came to talk to us provided a great base understanding to work off and delve deeper into what accountants do and how they operate in professional accounting practice, as the industry experience gave a different insight from the discussions with students when engaging in the deep learning process, which gave great insight and allowed me to learn a lot more. The articles I read on the perceptions of accountants were very interesting as it gave me insight into how non-accountants view accountants, which fueled my discussion and allowed me to grasp a better understanding for the topic as a whole. To conclude, the accounting profession is very vast, and in the element I examined, there is also a great level of technical knowledge and understanding from each element. It became obvious that the social stigma of bean counter is no longer relevant in today's business world, and accountants are required to be able to demonstrate a soft skill set as well as a technical one to gain the required information to conduct their job as necessary, while still upholding the technical skills as they were discussed earlier on. The evolution of the accounting role means consistent change in the field will lead to exciting opportunities in the future for accountants.